I do not like Veteran's Survivalist aura, nor do I like Zealot's Loner aura. I think they're both poorly designed and need to be changed to make the game overall healthier. But the question is, why are they bad? What about them makes them so unhealthy for the game? Let's talk about it. The problem with an aura like Loner is that it isn't actually an aura. It's a skill node that is, for some reason, in an aura slot. It's inherently selfish and encourages a selfish playstyle in what is supposed to be a team-based game, and it's even more of a problem since it allows you to ignore coherency auras, which is supposed to be the entire mechanic that heavily encourages, if not outright forces, teamwork by blocking toughness regen if you do not partake in it. Of course, unless you choose the Loner aura, in which case you can do whatever you want, your team be damned. While it is true that skilled players do not need to be constantly tied in coherency to be effective, I do not think it's a good idea to have an ability that gives newer players an excuse to run off by themselves when they don't have the skill set to back up that playstyle. The problem with Vet's Survivalist aura... oh boy, where do I even begin? The Survivalist aura is deceptively problematic for many reasons, but I will do my best to sum them up as quickly as possible. Keep in mind that what I'm about to say is me presenting the problems the community at large has with the aura. I will share my personal opinions on it a little bit later. Veteran's other two auras aren't good enough to warrant taking when compared to Survivalist. 5% extra damage will not push you past any important breakpoints, and 5% movement speed isn't a big enough boost by itself to lose out on a constant drip feed of ammunition. When ran alongside ranged-centric builds, it allows for near infinite ammo in missions, which blocks weapons from being balanced via high damage but a low ammo pool. Most of these ranged builds, like Gunlugger Ogryn, are fine and perfectly effective on their own. It's the addition of the Survivalist aura on top of them that makes them way too efficient at generating ammo. However, if you do not wish to run a ranged-centric build and do not run the Survivalist aura, then certain weapons will struggle to keep up due to their lack of efficient ammo usage, such as with the Plasma Gun or Ogryn's Ripper Guns. This inherently reduces weapon choices at higher difficulties and causes people to feel forced to play with a smaller selection of weapons in order to remain relevant in the higher difficulties. The main issue with these two auras is that they allow you to bypass entire mechanics of the game. Being able to completely ignore ammo management and coherency aura is incredibly powerful, and since there are already many other ways in the base game to make your interactions with these two mechanics more efficient, these two auras push the power levels into extreme ranges. And the Loner aura is still just poorly designed from a team gameplay standpoint. However, it is not impossible to balance an aura like this. Take a look at Beacon of Purity, for instance. Purity is well balanced because it not only encourages you to stay close to your team and play as a team to benefit from it, but it also doesn't stack with anything because there is nothing else to stack with corruption cleansing-wise. The only other way to cure corruption is to consume resources via med stations or stims, or with Veteran's field improvisation talent that also requires a resource via a medkit. It allows you to partially bypass the corruption mechanic by making it easier to deal with, but it does not entirely remove it or entirely negate it. The best way to fix both of these auras is to alter them so that they do not entirely bypass core gameplay mechanics, but make them easier to interact with by bending the already established rules. For example, the core gameplay mechanic of coherency requires you to be within a certain distance of your team in order to benefit from coherency. So rather than having the Loner aura entirely remove that requirement, it can be altered so that it supports people occasionally leaving the aura in order to contribute to the team, yet expects them to eventually make their way back. With this in mind, this is the rework I would propose. After you leave an ally's coherency aura, or an ally leaves yours, the coherency effect lingers for 12 seconds on that player, be it you or your ally, and treats them as within at least 2 coherency for the time. While this effect lasts, the player would still have the aura perk effect of the last reject they broke coherency with. and after this time expires would lose coherency and must go back to the team to gain it once again. This rework would allow people to safely break away from their team for a short period of time and allow for movement across the battlefield, yet still encourage them to stay close and not outright abandon their team since the buff is not permanent. For the Survivalist aura, I think we first need to have a chat about ammunition in Darktide. I am of the firm belief that a huge part of skill expression within the Tide series is not only ammo management, but also target acquisition. Understanding when and what to shoot in a firefight is a skill in of itself, as the situation changes literally every second and requires you to analyze the terrain you're fighting on, your cover options, your team's resources, the enemy's positions, listen and understand spawn cues, understand when guaranteed resources spawns are approaching, and so on and so forth. Being able to take all of this information in, consider your options, and make a decision on how to fight in just a few seconds is a powerful skill to build, and removing that chance of skill expression with infinite ammo, to me personally, is lame and unfun. However, I do understand that Darktide is less of a melee-focused game than Vermintide was, and that ranged combat is a huge part of Darktide. Additionally, I understand that the skill tree nodes and possible builds that come from them must reflect this shift in design. I'm not a fan of the recent nerf that was made to the Survivalist aura, as I think it's more of a band-aid fix than an actual fix, so here is my proposal. Revert the nerf and remove it entirely as an aura. Do not make it a normal skill tree node, as that would still cause it to be a must pick within the skill tree itself and would limit build variety, but instead make it a base passive that comes with the veteran class by default. Veteran's entire shtick is to be the ranged pew-pew shooty guy, so allow them to do ranged pew-pew shooty things, but do not grant the other careers in the game the ability to freely do so unless they specifically build into it in their own skill tree. This admittedly would cause some weapons to be notably worse, since the thing that makes them bad is their ammo pool, or lack thereof. But removing the Survivalist aura as an aura allows Fat Shark to balance weapons by their ammo pool, and grant them extra ammo reserves if needed. This would also mean that the veteran would need a new aura ability, and I think that having an aura that grants a small boost to reload speed would be incredibly useful, but not nearly as game-breaking as Survivalist was. Overall, I do like the aura abilities in Darktide. It's just these two specific auras that really missed the mark for me, which is why I hope they're changed at some point in the future to allow for an overall better experience for everyone. What do you think about these two auras, though? If you have any suggestions on how you would change them, let me know down in the comments below. See you next time.